Hi, this is Chapter 14, Public Presentations to Persuade. What we're going to look at in this chapter is how to prepare a persuasive presentation, how to introduce your persuasive presentation. How do you persuade? Most people think persuasion is sales, but there's a little bit of a difference, actually quite a bit of difference. You also need three forms of proof in your persuasive speech. We're going to look at how to organize your persuasive message. Don't think of it as a speech. Think of it as a message, and we'll see why. There are some skills for persuasive speaking that go beyond informative speaking. And at the end of this chapter, there's samples on persuasive speech outlines and note cards. Preparing a persuasive presentation. We need persuasive terminology. We need to know what is your immediate purpose and what is your long-range goal with your message in your persuasive presentation. Persuasive terminology, there's a couple of keywords that you need to know and do not use them. Not the words, but the coercion or the manipulation. In other words, if you use them, you're going to fail. That's kind of coercion. It's not good. But I can manipulate you by saying, you know what, if you do a really good job, you might get a good grade. But if you do bad, you might get a bad grade. Well, that's not really persuasion either. That's kind of trickery. We don't want to do that with our audience. It's not fair to do. So when we look at a persuasive presentation, think of it as a message that is strategically designed to form changes in people's minds in some way consistent with your purpose, just like a lawyer in a courtroom trying to tell a story to persuade the jury to believe the evidence. And we're going to look at evidence in a little bit here too. So examples of persuasive topics include new rules that might be and or should be needed for drug use among athletes. Very popular when steroids pop up among youth. Teachers need to unionize. That comes up in my world a lot. Construction and building practices must become greener. Now, the funny thing is, this was done in 2013-14, so the green movement is not something new. And I could persuade you on that without coercing or manipulating you by showing you proper evidence. And here it is right in front of you in this presentation. Remember, persuasion is not coercion. It's not forcing people to unwillingly think or behave as you want because you want them to. You can't hold a pitchfork to somebody's face and say, if you don't do it, that's coercion. And that's very wrong, too. Very dangerous. Don't put out somebody's eye with that. Manipulation is tricking people or lying or using fraudulent means to gain their compliance or their willingness to change. Well, it's not really willingness if you're manipulating them. Trickery is bad. Just think about it that way. You want to lead people down a path so they can form a conclusion based on evidence and facts. Your immediate purpose is a statement of what you intend to accomplish through your message, through your 5-minute persuasive speech. Given that a single presentation to a captive audience, not a volunteer audience, but a captive audience, is unlikely to produce dramatic results. You need to be realistic in your goals and your expectations of how much one person in that audience is going to change. Again, through certain behaviors, you need eye contact. You need to be legitimate. You need to be credible. And again, we're going to look at all that stuff. But what is your immediate purpose? What do you want your audience members to do or not to do? So when you're thinking about this, understand that people in the audience may already know and feel a certain way about certain things, especially your topic. It may be something that is dramatic, that's in the news every single day. Well, not everybody follows the news. I do. But I get burned out. So if I don't follow the news for 2 days, I feel left out. So if somebody's trying to persuade me on something new, I'm like, wait. Where's this coming from? And actually, this happens every single day in the news now. It's always something new, but with the same old topics that we won't get into. Use your imagination on that one. If you're trying to form, reinforce, or reform your audience's attitudes, values, or behavior in regards to your issue, you need to remember what attitudes, values, and behaviors are, which ones are easier to change, which ones are harder to change. So again, think of who your audience is and how you're approaching this. What's your long-range goal of your topic, of your message? If not a lot of action is produced from a one-shot effort to persuade listeners, don't feel bad. Persuading people sometimes takes time in their own head to form their own opinions, to form their own attitudes, to form their own values, to create new beliefs before they do something. So your short-range goal is, I don't want them walking out of my presentation. That's a good first goal. The next step is to maybe ask questions at the end, maybe to get them to research at the end. Think about this. The more an audience hears about issues from many sources, not just you, the more likely they are to take action on stopping or starting something. If I tell you right now, you need to start working out today or else you're going to become way overweight, you're going to become sick, your health insurance is going to be really expensive, and you're going to live a short, horrible, expensive life. Well, that's not the right way to do it. The long-range goal is, look, I know working out can be difficult. A lot of people don't realize that you don't need to be a member of a gym. Just by walking, even back and forth down a hallway in your house or your apartment, can be exercise. And if you go to the YouTube channel and you give them the address and watch this short video, you'll see an expert of how they get people who have become very sedentary to start exercising. Hey, if they can do it, you can do it, right? Come on. You're not bedridden already, are you? So there's ways of doing it. You're not coercing or manipulating in that. And the long-range goal is eventually they're going to start working out. Introducing your persuasive presentation. Not much difference than the informative, but there is a little bit of difference. So let's look at these things. Revealing your purpose in a persuasive speech is kind of like getting your foot in the door technique. In other words, it's getting people to kind of just peek at it, to get you interested in it, and that being the audience interested in it. So getting the foot in the door is when you warm up your audience to your ideas rather than just shouting them out. Hey, today I'm going to get you to work out whether you want to or not. Actually, I can do that without coercing you and manipulating to it, and I will prove it in class too. Very tricky. Well, not tricky. It's just how I approach it, and it's worked quite a bit. So the first thing you want to do is analyze the audience. Again, who's your audience? Through surveys or research, asking, looking around our room, you know who the other 7 to 8 people are, depending if you include me in it. Then you have to determine when and how you should reveal your immediate purpose. Now, if you're going into a stranger room, beware of stranger danger. Think about that. You don't know who's in that room, but you do know who is in our classroom. So think about this. If you aren't asking for too much change from people, reveal your purpose and action steps right up front, right in your introduction, right with a thesis. That's what a thesis is for too. If you're asking for a more change, something that takes time because it's going after their beliefs or values rather than an attitude, you need to reveal your purpose again at the beginning. Then you have to explain the actions you wish them to take at the end and after you've made the strong case through the body of your speech. And again, this is building a case. This is saying, because of this, because of this, because of this, this can happen. And that could be a pro or a con, depending if you want them to start doing something or stop doing something. Let's just say we want to have the audience adopt something. We want you to start exercising more. We want you to stop or cut back on caffeine intake, and you can be specific. I don't want you to drink pops and sodas with caffeine in it and mixed chemical drinks. I want you to stop texting while driving, and I want you to start walking rather than driving everywhere. Now, again, there's pros and cons in a persuasive speech too. You need 2 pros for 1 con. So, hey, I understand if you're going to downtown Akron or downtown Cleveland, yeah, it's 10 to 12 or 14 miles and you need to get there quickly, that you're going to drive. But instead of parking extra close to the building, maybe park 1 parking spot down and use your feet and become a little bit more of a pedestrian than a driver. So when we adopt things, this means that listeners start a behavior as a result of the persuasive presentation. In other words, I want you to start exercising more by just walking. You don't have to run. You don't have to go to a gym. I just want you to start walking and think about every step that you take. Now, that's starting something. The stopping part is the discontinuance. This is in a persuasive purpose rooted in convincing listeners to stop a certain behavior that might be bad for them, or maybe it's bad for other people. Now, texting while driving, every day I see in the news, unless it's a really big news day, more people have died because of texting. Have you ever seen the videos of people walking out into traffic and being hit by cars because they're texting and walking? How about people walking into things while they're texting? When I was out west this summer, I watched somebody walk into a parking meter while they were texting. They might have been inebriated, I don't know, but it was pretty funny. And too bad we didn't have a video. All you have to do is go to YouTube and watch idiots texting while doing something, while they're cutting down a tree with a chainsaw. These are really good things. I want you to start. I want you to stop. That's a really good way to start to think about what your topic's going to be. And again, think of your passions. When we talk to people face to face, our efforts are more persuasive than just advertising, what they call public service campaigns. And there's 3 good reasons for this. In face-to-face communication, it is the most effective mode we have. Why? Because of eye contact, because of our face, our body language. If you respond to your audience members and they're looking very dull and bored and disinterested, maybe it's you. So get that proverbial mirror out and think, what are you showing them on your face with your body language? If you're very passionate about it, your shoulders are going to move. Your elbows are going to move away from your body. You're going to, what's called opening up your body. And again, I'm going to have to show you this. But think about being really closed off. Your elbows pressed against your side, your hands right in front of your body within your shoulders. Now, move your elbows away from your sides. Open your hands up outside of your shoulders. So in other words, this is called a wide open stance. This now can really be persuasive versus being very tight. I want you to try that for yourself. See how it feels. Be really tight and then open up wide. See if it has a feeling for what you do. And it should. If it doesn't, let me know, and we'll find out why. Maybe you're just not doing it right. Face-to-face communication offers a possibility of spontaneous behavior. In other words, you see people that are bored, disinterested. Now all of a sudden you can lean forward, take a step to them. If you're in the corner of the room, you can walk to the other side. Think about where Julia sits in our room and where I stand. Okay, she usually is off by the windows. Julia, I'm not picking on you, but I have to use something for imagination. So from where you sit, think of how I move closer to her. If I started on the windows side of the room and then moved way down the way, John's way in the back corner by the door, hard to get to him. Maybe I walk around the desks, okay? And then Lena might be offended because I'm walking too close to her and she's like, oh my God, what's going on? But John now knows, wow, he's coming towards me. What's going on? And maybe it's because he was a little disinterested, or maybe he's really passionate. I'm just walking over to give him a high five and give Lena a high five on the way back. And Emily, I can't reach you. You're too far away. And Patty, you're too far in the back. And Jake, you're way too far away. So I can't do that. And depending where Jesselyn's sitting, she's in the middle. Maybe I kind of reach over or say, hey, pass a high five to her. So think about how that works. I just told you a story about an environment without even being there. How is that picturing in your head? When you're using persuasive, building a story is so important. Other face-to-face positives for presentations can be especially effective because your classmates are a captive audience. Now, they can choose to leave, but generally, if anybody leaves, it's bad. Don't do it. Now, during the breaks, you can leave. We can take a break because some people are nervous. They say, I have to go to the bathroom. I've actually had people blurt out, I got to go now. I'm like, go, run. And everybody laughs. Hey, everybody is going through the same feelings, okay? Don't feel like you're being laughed at. You're being laughed with. So how do you persuade? Let's take a peek at this. We need to use arguments to persuade, but you got to have fact, policy, and value within those arguments. What's the difference between evidence and proof? We're going to look at that. And how can you test evidence? It's another really good reason. So what might be a proposition of fact, value, and policy for recycling be? Interesting. So we got to think about that. Let's look at what an argument is. It's a form of discourse that attempts to persuade. In other words, I'm going to give you enough evidence, enough facts that are appropriate that's going to make you feel that I'm correct and that you want to start believing me. That's my goal. So the argument consists of propositions, again, which are the points to be discussed or considered in the argument. Again, we have facts, values, and policies. So a proposition of fact is an assertion that can be proved or disproved. In other words, a statement that can be proved or disproved through references, through research. If you have the right research and you provide credible resources, it helps your story. If you just say, some dude on a blog site that I found on YouTube, he Snapchatted with me live, and I thought he was pretty credible because he has a cool website. Not gonna work. We need something. So the government, and I know some people think the government lies a lot, but sometimes they do. But a government study over the last 50 years, this might be credible, says that there is now microplastics in every organism caught in a study. And actually, I just saw this on the news today. Very important that we know this about our food sources. There's microplastics in everything we eat. So does that mean we're getting less and less nutritional value? The answer is actually yes. And if I did my research and gave you references, I can prove that to you beyond a reasonable doubt. Proposition of value. It's a statement of what we should embrace as good or bad, right or wrong, beautiful or ugly. So think of the value that it has. If something is good or bad, you could take any position you want on that. Gun control. Is it good or bad? Gun control in some people's minds is being able to hit the target. Gun control in other people's minds is nobody should own guns. Well, which is right, which is wrong? Now, there's evidence on that. Constitutional rights versus opinion. Which is right or wrong? Actually, they can both be right or wrong. It depends on your perspective and what you're trying to persuade people to do, believe, change, start, or stop. Proposition of policy is a proposal of a new rule or change in behavior. Hey, I want you to start eating healthy foods because here's why. The American diet is leading to obesity, which is leading to more expensive healthcare, which is leading to increased costs, higher rates of diabetes, higher rates of cancers, blah, 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 blah. Again, you do your research, and here it is. Proper resources can lead people to a change in behavior. If you've never watched Super Size Me, I guarantee you, watch Super Size Me and then tell me you want to still go out and eat fast food. If you do, you didn't watch the whole thing to the end. Really good movie to change your behavior. And again, that's a resource and a reference. Evidence refers to anything physical or verbal that helps in forming a conclusion or judgment in your audience members. Now, DNA, results or witness testimony, can be something very important. Can DNA be faked? Okay, realistically, no, it's done right. The test could be messed up. The evidence could be miscollected, but DNA doesn't lie. Witness testimony. Now, I need to show you this in class, but I want you to imagine this. If I was standing in the very center of our classroom and I asked everybody to turn and face me, and I did something, and I asked each of you to tell me exactly, detail for detail, what did I do? Do you think for a second that everybody is going to say the exact same thing based on their perspective and witnessing of the event? Depending how I'm standing, I will have my back to some people, I will have a side profile to other people, and a full front face-to-face view of other people. So again, witness testimony is important, but the perspective is really important too. This is where proof comes in. This is any evidence that the receiver believes. If my back is to the audience and I say, how many fingers am I holding up on my hands right now? Well, a 5-year-old will tell you 10. Well, they don't have to be held up. It's, I have 10 fingers. Okay, well, the proof is I can turn around and say, yep, see it, I've got 10 fingers. Again, a strange thing. This is easier to see it if you can imagine this lifetime. So you just got to imagine this. But here's this. Here's evidence. DNA tests, okay? A strand of hair, swab of saliva. That gives proof, okay? Can you prove that to an audience, though? A little bit hard. How about fingerprints? Do fingerprints lie? Well, some people say yes if it's not done correctly. Well, the fingerprint doesn't lie. Again, it's the method of collection that might be wrong. Fiber samples. Well, take any fiber, any clothes that we have, any carpet that we walk on, anything that we walk through or on. If you go to a furniture store and jump up and down on all the furniture and then go somewhere and do a fiber sample of your clothes, there's going to be a lot of evidence in that. But it can be proof that maybe you were at a furniture store, and it could be chemical, not just fibers. Testimony, again, testimony is evidence, but with only one source, it's not as strong as 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or more sources. The more, the better. Numbers and statistics, again, depending how they're collected and how they're being used, are great evidence to prove something. But again, how are they collected and what's the accuracy of the collection methods? So again, be careful of this stuff. Now, for your speech in class, it's not so exacting as, say, police reports or FBI results or something that is absolutely trying to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that somebody did something or that somebody was somewhere where they were or not supposed to be. Again, think about this crime scene. We've all seen TV shows, one way, shape, or form. There's a murder and they put all the numbers out there and they put the tape around the dead body and they do all that stuff. Well, I don't think it really happens like that. But again, if you're into forensics, you know this stuff. Hollywood bends the truth a little bit because it's boring. Hey, look over there. See the blood stain? That person. That's no fun. We can't imagine that. So they put tape around it. Watch real crime scenes and see how they do it. YouTube's very good for this stuff. So how can you test evidence when you're wanting to provide it to an audience to believe them? You have to think these questions. Is the evidence consistent with other known facts? Would another person draw the same conclusion you have based on the exact same evidence? Does the evidence come from unbiased sources? This is really big in the news. If you're following politics, and I'll just say it out loud, the Trump issue and the Russian conspiracy, do you think that it is unbiased sources that are providing all this information? And I've been following this for a couple years. We're going to find out some things in the next few months to a year that are going to change things substantially. Well, am I biased or unbiased? We'll have to prove that. And I can quote sources on that. So that, therefore, I can be unbiased. I can be neutral in this. Is the person who is the source of the evidence even qualified through education or experience on the job to get the evidence? Could I go out and test a blood stain to see what type of, is it A, B, B negative, O negative, whatever? Yeah, if I have the right kit, but I'm not an expert at it. When I was a Boy Scout, we did that. Yeah, but that's still not really an education. Now, let's go find one of the nurses at Twinsburg. I don't think any nurses are in here when we heard, but probably during the day. And if we ask them, through education, they could be an expert, but their teacher would be a better expert. Is the person who is the source of evidence even credible based on their background and reputation? A lot of people lie, and there are professional liars that unfortunately provide false evidence and false statements based on that. If we know their background of that, are we even going to believe them? What if the reputation of somebody, let's say they were thrown in jail 3 or 4 times for writing fraudulent checks, for bad checks. Do you think for an instant that if that person went out and gave another check to somebody, do you think they're going to be on a list? Probably. Marx used to have a list of bad check writers that was pages and pages long. And that's when they only started accepting checks. It was horrible to go to Marx and do that. That's why Marx only accepted cash for so long. But you know what? It was because the evidence was there that people lie. If the evidence is based on personal experience, how typical is that personal experience? In other words, are you so unique that nobody else in the whole world has done that? Well, if you're the only one collecting that evidence, speaking of that, the FBI just revealed files from 1977 that said that the hairs given to the FBI that said they were from Bigfoot, the FBI stated, nope, they were actually deer hairs. Interesting. Remember that case way back. If statistics are used as evidence, are they from a reliable source? Like I keep telling you, statistics can lie based on who is collecting and who's giving them. Compare with other information that you know about. Is it current? Is it applicable? Can it be interpreted differently so the audience can actually understand them? Or are they skewed so only you understand them? Or maybe you don't even understand them, but the people that created it understood them. And they understood that they want the numbers to misrepresent something. If studies and surveys are used as evidence, are they authoritative? Are they valid, reliable, objective, generalizable? Again, we have to look at all these things. Again, be careful with surveys. Use them. Please use them. State the resources, absolutely. But you also might throw in a disclaimer. You might say, you know what? I didn't believe this at first. But when I found 3 other surveys that matched up with this one, then I believed it. Ooh, so that's how we can find out if surveys actually work. Are inferences appropriate to the evidence being presented? In other words, the idea that this evidence is there, can people jump to a conclusion in that? Have you overlooked any important counter evidence? So if you're giving a persuasion on green energy, or that recycling is actually good for our environment. Well, there is a lot of counter evidence to that. I owned a printing company back in the early 90s, and we were being told we need to use recycled paper because it will save the environment, it'll save the trees. Well, we actually went to one of the paper plants where they did recycling, and they said, actually, recycling is a bunch of garbage. It's a lie. Yeah, it's recycled product, but it's killing the environment because the amount of chemicals needed to clean all the fibers and all the garbage they put together to create that new paper. So there was this misperception that recycling is good. Yes and no. Again, there's counter evidence to everything. So please look at both sides of this. Don't believe just one side and take that as face value. 3 forms of proof that we need to have. As human beings, we have a lot of things going for us. One of the first things is we skipped one here, is our logic. Logic, or logos, refers to persuasion by using logical argument. I'm a very logical person. If you lead me A to Z down a path, I will believe you. But if you skip something, you jump around, my little antenna are going to go up going, nah, something's not right here, and I'll back out. Again, been around the sun a few more times than you have. So this is lesson learned through mistakes in the past, okay? Because sometimes when you're younger, we tend to jump at things. Be careful of this. Be a little more logical about things. So look at these 2 models. There's the top one and the bottom one. Which of these models is the structure of an inductive versus a deductive argument? So just read these real quick. Some specific instances. Schools and federal programs that are underfunded. Unrepaired roads and highways. Tuition that goes up because government support goes down. The inference, or the leap, is that low taxes are bad for our economy. So my statement would be low taxes are bad for our economy because schools and federal programs are underfunded. You can't pay for them. Our roads will go unrepaired, and our highways will go unrepaired, and our tuition will go up because government support will go down. Okay, interesting. That one sounds pretty good. How about this one? I'm going to go backwards. Conclusion. Joanne is dangerous because Joanne drives while drunk. All drunk drivers are dangerous. Now, this one's more the inference, okay? So the generalization is all drunk drivers are dangerous. The minor premise is Joanne drives while drunk, therefore Joanne is dangerous. Okay? So again, think of these when you're designing your speeches. Ethos refers to the reputation, authority, and credibility, and the integrity of the speaker. What do you think detracts from a speaker's credibility? Their dress, their mannerisms, their eye contact? How about if they're kind of looking away and, I'm going to tell you something that's really important. And can you tell I'm not even looking at you right now? Well, if I look at the microphone, I'm looking at you, but I'm just kind of hemming and hawing around, and there's a lot of ums, and it's kind of like this. If you sort of believe what I say, then, okay, that's not it. Competence, trustworthiness, and dynamics are part of a speaker's ethos. So if I'm telling you right now with definitive proof that what I'm about to tell you will change your life for the better. Dramatic pauses, eye contact, the use of my voice, the passion, the pace, the inflection, everything that I do can show differences in credibility. So be careful when you're doing that too in your practice, because how you practice will be how you speak. And actually, it'll change just a little bit because of your stress under pressure, your anxieties, and all those perceived things in your head that we'll talk about in the future too coming up. So again, think about ethos and the credibility that you bring to that podium. Fear. If you're afraid of spiders and snakes in the dark and things that go bump in the night, you can get people to listen to you a little more carefully. But don't distract them so bad that they are tuned out and they're dropping pills to relax, okay? We don't want to do that. We do not promote pill use because of fear. Face your fears, right? I will not let a spider walk on me. I will think about it, but I won't do it. That's facing my fear. I'll get near it, but no way. I don't care, tarantula or not. I don't care if it's a pet. It is not getting on my skin, at least on purpose anyhow. All right, so pathos refers to the use of emotional means of persuasion. As human beings, we are packed filled with emotion. We can be happy. We can be sad and lonely and really removed from everything. But be careful of using too much emotion. You want to get the emotion arisen in people. You don't want it suppressed. You want to bring them into your story through a message. Can you imagine getting a phone call at midnight from the police saying that somebody you know got into an accident? Okay? The tone of my voice is pretty stern, so you already know which way I'm going to take on this. I'm telling you at midnight. How about at 3 a.m., your cell phone blows up with text after text after text, and you are freaking out because they say, call me, please call me. Wow, what is going on? That's stressful just thinking about that. Until you have children of your own, you don't know what that does to a parent. You know where you are in life that if your friend does that, depending on your friend, you might say, oh, geez, they need a ride home. They're being stupid again. Or somebody's really in trouble and wow, I got to go help them. Again, we can use emotion to get people into a story to create a little bit of anxiety, not a lot. We can create a little bit of aggression, but not a lot. And we want to be careful of overburdening people with this because some people will withdraw from a speech if it's too much. Scare tactics are good. There was a program called Scared Straight way back in the day, and what they did, they took juvenile kids that were in trouble, and they put them in really strict boot camp. Not just picking up litter, not going to therapy, not holding her blankie and talking to somebody with a cup of warm cocoa and all that. This was hardcore boot camp, and they stopped doing it. But you know what? They were effective. But the people that didn't like it got it to stop, and that changed things, because now there's no fear. And without fear, it's hard to change things. Not that fear is good, but organizing your persuasive message. There's a couple things you should know about the Monroe motivated sequence and ethical persuasion. The Monroe motivated sequence involves 5 things, and this is really, really important to remember. If you want to take notes, do a screenshot, do something. We're going to be on the screen for just a little bit. So here's the deal. I need your full and undivided attention right now. I got your attention. Good. So I gained to maintain your interest in this because you're like, oh my gosh, he said it's important. I did. You're focusing on the screen. You're listening to my voice. Now I have to demonstrate a need for you to do this. If you follow these sequences, you will have a better speech, which will make you feel better and will result in a higher grade, which will also make you feel better. So I demonstrated a problem and aroused the need for change. You need to follow this specifically. I have your attention. I've established that there's a need. Now I have to satisfy that need by suggesting a solution that satisfied your need. So here's the deal. If you follow the Monroe motivated sequence in detail, you will have better grades, you will feel better about yourself, and your GPA will rise. Pretty simple. Visualize this. Help your audience see how your ideas will help them in the future. Could you imagine getting an A in this course? Of course you can. What's it going to do for your GPA? A 4.0? Now, if you're not an A student and you only like C's and B's, I'm going to tell you right now, you can get an A so easily. Okay? Do I have your attention? Do I have established a need? Did I satisfy that need? Visualize this. You're going to do awesome in this. I guarantee it. Okay? As long as you do the work and do what you have to do, you'll be successful at this. The action. State for your audience what actions they should take. Show up to class, watch all these video lectures, and practice what I preach. Yeah. Well, I do as I preach too. I walk the walk, talk the talk, and all that fun stuff. Attention, need, satisfaction, visualization, and action will lead you to give your audience a much better message in persuasion and getting them to stop, getting them to start something. You can read through the sample speeches of the Monroe motivated sequence. I'm not going to go through this, but if you want, you can read this, and it's listed out the need, satisfaction, visualization, and the action stage. Ethical persuasion. Now, when we say ethics, ethics are a set of principles for correct conduct. Now, what is correct conduct? And we can come up with some pretty silly things, but seriously, what is correct? Think of the golden rule. Okay, if you don't know the golden rule, look it up. Generally accepted ethical standards related to persuasive presentation include the following. You need to accurately cite your sources. Some dude on the internet had this cool website that I pulled up this information. No, you need to say exactly who it was. You want people to be able to follow your trail of evidence if they really are going to make a change. If you're really passionate and really want people to change, give them good sources. And if you want to be really accurate, print them out and hand them to people. I'm not saying you should do that for this upcoming presentation on persuasion, but that's a good way to do it if you're doing this for a job or maybe even an interview. Respect sources of information. Don't demean them. Say, yeah, this stupid idiot, he was kind of dumb. Yeah, that's respecting sources too. The one thing that drives me nuts right now, an undisclosed source. Okay, I hear, I'm making this up. Who was your source? If you do not say, it doesn't count. And unfortunately, our country and this world is being torn apart by anonymous sources. Really? Come on. Who gave you the source? But again, it's just a class, but for reality for the world, this is a pet peeve of mine, as you can tell. Respect sources. If somebody says, look, don't quote me on this, but here's some information, you can do that, but kind of hem and haw a little bit on that and just say a really important person gave me some information and they asked to be anonymous. And I know that sounds bad, but here's the evidence. That does not count as a reference, by the way. Find one more. It just adds to your story. Respect your audience. Don't demean your audience. If I say, you know what, you're sitting there going, yeah, whatever, this is stupid, and, he's going to give me a C, I don't care. I don't think that way. I respect you enough to know that you can get an A, and you probably are going to get an A, provided you do what you're supposed to do to complete your speeches, to complete your quizzes, to do that. I respect you as a student and as a person. Now, how you lose respect real quick is, look, you people in the audience, you're idiots. You don't know anything yet. Let me educate you about something here real quick. If you're trying to get their attention, you just did. But it's not not the good attention getter. You might say, you know what? Everybody in this audience has been lied to. Me too. Okay? Ooh, so now I joined you. I put myself on the same platform as you. Be careful with how you approach your audience. Don't demean them. Don't undercut them. Don't underrate them. People know a lot more than you think. It's just a matter of getting them up to speed with your story. Respect those who disagree with you. Hey, let's agree that we can disagree, okay? There's a lot of people that disagree with my opinions. That's okay. So you know what? I just shut up. I don't give my opinion. Well, that's okay. I don't have to not like them, but I can still respect them as a person. There's certain people I watch on the news that I don't respect because they have no respect for themselves. They're what I call media prostitutes. They will take money and say whatever they can for money. And you can tell who they are. Now, some people, I have a very good friend who was a former attorney. He retired. He's very liberal, and I'm not really conservative. I'm kind of in the middle, I guess, but we have some of the greatest conversations that are really far ends of the spectrum. But we respect each other because we disagree, but we have logical arguments because we both have right and wrong attitudes about this stuff. And then when we find the evidence, we change it and say, you were right. Or he'll say, yeah, you were right. Or I could say, you know what, I was really wrong and you were right. So be careful in the ethical persuasion with your audience. Some skills for persuasive speaking. There's a couple. You need to provide examples. You need to compare and contrast often with your information. And testimonials are really good too, using somebody else's words and evidence. A factual example is based on real circumstances that can be proven. Here's the picture. Here's the video. Now, a picture is worth 1,000 words, but a video with audio in whole, not just a clip, not a Snapchat version, but the whole 30-minute argument is more valid than the clip where somebody maybe was being sarcastic or the words were taken out of context. So factual examples are good. Now, you can also use hypothetical examples or made-up fictional examples, but they need to be realistic, okay? When you use the statement, could you imagine, okay? Now, can you imagine is good. It draws your audience into a story, but don't make it ridiculous. Can you imagine losing 100 pounds in the next month? No, I can't, unless you cut off half my body or 2/3 of my body, whatever it is. But don't overboard it with the hypotheticals. Could you imagine losing 1 pound a week just by walking? That's realistic. Now, if you could say, can you imagine losing 5 pounds in just one session of this body wrap with seaweed and all our special ingredients and snake oil charmers and blah, blah, blah? Not realistic, okay? I can put you in a sweat box, turn it up to 200 degrees. You're going to pass out. Yeah, you're going to lose 5 pounds real quick, but you're not going to be healthy. So again, factual, hypothetical. Be careful. Don't stretch them too much. Compare and contrast. This is one of my favorite ways to persuade people. Think about New York City and Los Angeles. You may know a little bit about either, but New York is on the ocean. So is LA. Very interesting. One's on the East Coast, one's on the West Coast. One has a certain type of people. The other has, well, they have people too. But the type of people are a little bit different. Their accents are very different. But how about weather? New York gets snow. LA gets, well, what does LA get? Sunshine. They both get smog, but LA gets a little bit more because of the mountains in the background, as you can see. They both have horrible roads with traffic because there's so many people, but LA has a bigger road system. Well, if they had a subway system like New York, compares and contrasts. These are pros and cons too. 2 pros, 1 con. Think about that. 2 pros, 1 con. We can go over that more if you need clarification on that. Testimony, lay testimony. This is just by regular people. This is by us. Okay, so somebody goes to court and they witnessed a car accident and the lawyer called and said, hey, you gave a good police report. I need you to come and just give a testimony. Okay, you're not an expert. You're just you. And you go, and that's your testimony. And they could say, well, can you judge how fast the car was going? And you'll start to say, well, I know the car was going. And the other attorney will stand up and say, not allowed to do that. Are you an expert? No. Okay, I could say roughly the car was going this fast by demonstration, but I can't tell you exactly how fast it was going without a radar gun. Okay, that would be the expert. Now, celebrity testimony. Do you believe everything a Hollywood actor or actress tells you? Because they're famous. Hey, they're famous. They're worth millions of dollars, and they're your favorite person. Do you believe everything they say? Look at that little line down at the bottom of every commercial that you've ever seen. Paid celebrity endorsement. People that are celebrities get paid to make things up, called movies, theater, acting. So think about that. But you know what? People believe celebrities. Now, the celebrity that does it and uses a product, and we know this because they've been doing it for years and years and years, maybe we believe it. Look up Suzanne Summers and the Thigh Master. This is something way before most of your time. But Suzanne Summers was a famous actress. I think she's still alive, very old right now. But she had this thing called the Thigh Master. Everybody and their brother and sister bought one because it was going to make their thighs sexy and better and slimmer overnight. And it was hysterical. But people did it because of her. Experts. These are people who are trained. They have expertise and are accurate in these things. When you get a speeding ticket from a radar gun, from a cop or a sheriff on the highway, they aren't trained in that. There's people that are up in the helicopters and airplanes. They have to do math. They are trained experts, and they have to show their work when they go to court. So I've been told by my prosecutor attorney friend. So it's very hard to get out of that. But if the math is wrong, they lose. And then back to expert testimony school, they have to go and redo their math. The next thing, sample persuasive speech outline and note cards. You can look at these. Again, I'm not going to go through these because they're pretty lengthy. But again, just read through these and read the language. Now, real quick, I have to bring your attention to this because this is another pet peeve of mine. How many times have you been on the freeway and see these pop-up "don't text while driving" signs? What are we doing? We are reading text while we're driving. We are distracted. Drives me nuts. On 480, there's one, and I watch people swerve all the time because there's too much text in front of them. Oh, wait, handheld device texting. But you know what? Good idea, good intention, but somebody wasn't thinking too far on that. So I could set up a persuasion speech not to do those. Do a static sign. Better yet, how about just put it on the radio? Maybe cut into somebody's program. Again, read through these and see what you think and find out if these can help you or not.